asset management within the SKF Benelux organization. Welcome to this webinar about connected lubrication. Before we start, there's some practicalities that might be very handy, like muting your microphones to avoid background noise. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask them by using the chat window. If possible, I'll try to answer the question during the presentation, but probably we have to answer the questions afterwards. So please use the chat window, and we start today. About today's topics, the importance of lubrication management. Well, why is this so important, and why does this deserve your utmost attention? We have something about the aspects of a good lubrication program. Which aspects do we have to take into account, and why are best practices, for instance, so very important? Then we have a topic, how to build a strong lubrication program. We have to start from an as-is situation to a full-blown best practice program. I'll show you a couple of slides on the SKF solutions today. What solutions do we have concerning lubrication systems, for instance? And I'll show you a slide about the new SKF Enlight Centre dashboard and the interaction with the new SKF tools. Okay, the importance of lubrication management. Why is this so important? Well, if you look at the right picture, you see that most companies spend about 1 up to 3% of their total maintenance budget on lubricants, tools, and lubricating, which is actually not so much compared to the total budget. On the other hand, maintenance data shows that the impact of bad lubrication practices have a severe impact on premature bearing failure. Most of the time, resulting in function loss of equipment. The right picture shows that the impact of bad practices on, for instance, premature wear on components and bearings, additional spare repair costs, a higher total cost of ownership of the equipment, and it has an impact on product spoilage. So it's very important to have a very good lubrication management program that is on best practice level on some aspects of this program. Premature bearing failure. This is really a result of bad lubrication practices. On a global scale, SKF analyzes hundreds of bearings daily that have failed prematurely. And what we see is that about 36% of these bearings failed because of poor lubrication. It's about 36%. And if you look on the left picture, you see the most common failure modes that we see within SKF condition monitoring data. And then you see that the impact of bad lubrication is quite big. In our data, we also see that lubrication is a most common failure mode of premature bearing failure. And within this failure mode, we also divide it in some aspects of lubrication problems. And one of the most common problems is lubricant contamination. It's a failure mode that occurs very frequently. Also, the chemical degradation of the lubricant is a failure mode that we see a lot of times. And choosing a wrong lubricant or the wrong type or the wrong grade also shows that it gives a lot of premature bearing failure and function loss of rotating equipment. So premature bearing failure is a very common problem caused by lubrication practices that are not on a good level, or let's just call it bad lubrication practices. The impact of best practices. What will be the impact of bad practices or best practices? Well, if you bring your lubrication management program to best practice level on certain aspects, it will surely increase safety, health conditions, machine uptime and reliability, for instance. And it will reduce a lot of problems like energy consumption due to friction, noise reduction, unplanned downtime, operating expenses, actually your maintenance costs overall. Best practices can help you increase your reliability, increase production quality, and reduce all kinds of problems that give you the additional maintenance actions and maintenance costs. So it's very important to see if you can bring your lubrication management program to best practices on certain levels. What are the aspects of good lubrication? Well, it begins, of course, with the selection of the right lubricant, the quantity, and the intervals. Most of the time, companies use, how do you call that, a lubricant that they lubricate a lot of equipment with. The quantity is most of the time based on how OEMs advise to lubricate, and the same goes for the intervals. But actually, you should see if you can build a program based on operational parameters of the equipment, like number of RPMs, starts and stops, the temperature of the environment where the equipment is operating in, and do you say that in English? How is the load on the bearings is a parameter which is a parameter in the calculation to see if we can lubricate an equipment based on operational parameters. One thing which is also very important is avoiding contamination. Lubricants can be contaminated in several ways. It starts with handling in your storage, the tools you use when you start to re-lubricate the equipment in the field. Every time you do a handling, lubricants can be contaminated. Using right tools and methods to lubricate, also very important. Having and respecting procedures. How do we lubricate? Do you have a procedure that tells you how to lubricate certain equipment just to avoid making mistakes and avoid contamination? Lubrication tasks, planning, what and how. Your CMMS system should have work orders that tells you when to lubricate, how to lubricate. The scheduling must be disciplined. No backlogs on lubrication tasks. Backlogs are very bad. Lubrication is an aspect that is suddenly very easy forgotten if something happens within the field, like a failure, and everybody starts to repair, and all attention goes to a failure, and lubrication is very much an aspect that is forgotten and set aside very easily. Monitoring your equipment is very important. For instance, vibration analysis can give you a very good insight on how your lubrication is performing. It's very easy to see if a lubricant is performing well in a bearing with vibration analysis. So this gives you a very good insight in if your lubricant and the way you lubricate is performing as it should. Storing and handling also very important. Your storage room must be very clean. It has to have all kinds of color codes to avoid mistakes in handling, to avoid mistakes in using tools, cross-contamination. Avoiding of cross-contamination is very important, and lubricant waste handling is also a very important aspect to avoid any environmental problems or safety problems. Training is also an aspect which is very important to a lubrication program. We see that a lot of companies do not train the people that lubricate. Well, I think that the most important guy on site is your lubrication technician. These people, they see, they feel, they hear the equipment. They can have a great ownership of equipment. You can even train them to collect vibration data, for instance, or additional inspection data. And it's very important that these people know how to lubricate equipment and how to handle lubricants, just to avoid all kind of bad practices which have a very negative effect on your lubrication problem. So, and to start when you want to build a strong lubrication problem, the first step is to analyze your as-is situation. You can never improve if you have no insight in your as-is situation. And second step could be that you have a lubrication audit on your as-is situation, just to take a deeper dive in the as-is situation on certain aspects. So after determining your as-is situation, then an improvement proposal can be made. In other words, a roadmap to improvement with certain projects on certain aspects to improve your lubrication management program. If this is all done, then it's a matter of designing these improvement projects and implement them. If you have implemented them, and then you have to optimize and continuously improve the program to just keep a continuous improvement loop in your lubrication management program. So process step number 1, we call a client needs analysis on your lubrication management. This is a structured process to benchmark against world-class performance and industry average. We have done that a couple of hundred times, so we have a big database with figures that tells us what is the benchmark and what is best practices. And this analysis, it's a one-day interview with several people within the organization, like a maintenance manager, like a planner, like a maintenance engineer. We also interview people who lubricate. And after that one-day interview, we analyze the data. We upload the data into a piece of software within SPF. And we produce a report. Well, there's 5 areas that we investigate. That's the strategy area. How is your lubrication management program strategy built? How do you identify problems in the field, and how do you act on these problems identified? Then we have control. Control is all about your CMMS system or your work order process flow. Are you in control? Do you have the right work orders? Don't you have a backlog and stuff like that? And we have a focus on the execution of the lubrication. How do you execute these work orders? Let's just say, can you do this first time right? Can you bring into practice what you have designed in your strategy phase? And the last part we investigate is, do you have a continuous improvement loop? How do you continuously improve your lubrication program? To design all this and to investigate, the analysis is built on the SKF efficiency optimization model, which you can see in the picture on the right side. So it all starts with business goals, and business goals like unstopped or unplanned downtime. How much unplanned downtime do you accept? Environmental issues, safety issues, high costs, and all these risks that you have not to accomplish your business goals. We have summarized them in a risk matrix, and this risk matrix is the basis for your maintenance strategy. So a maintenance strategy is built on risk. We call that risk-based maintenance. And lubrication is a part of your maintenance strategy, of course. So also for lubrication, you can ask yourself, do you know why you do what you do? Why do we lubricate? Why do we lubricate this amount with this frequency? This type of lubricant in the equipment, using these tools. So that's the strategy part of building a lubrication management program. Then we have the second phase, the identify phase, and it's very important. Can you turn this strategy into practice? For instance, do you monitor your equipment with vibration or noise or another way of predictive maintenance, just to identify problems in the field, but also monitor the performance of your lubrication program. Do you have operators doing walkarounds with condition monitoring tools and see if there's any leakages or any lubricant spills, stuff like that. The third phase is the planning, like I said, in the CMMS system. For instance, do you have spare parts aligned? If you have to execute maintenance action, do you have work orders for lubrication rounds? If something has to be re-lubricated, how do you document this? Are you using work orders for re-lubrication? Can you analyze from the CMMS system? Is it built like a system that gives you data to analyze the performance of your lubrication program? And the fourth phase is the execution of the program. For instance, do the guys that have to lubricate have the right tools? Do they have the right procedures? Are they trained? Can they work or execute the lubrication tasks first time right? And the last thing we need to build and sustain a best practice lubrication program is update a living program. So the continuous improvement loop. How do we ensure that we continuously improve our lubrication program? So if we see any faults within the program, how do we act? Do we really improve and eliminate these faults within the program and go back from the start? So what are the results of such an analysis? Well, the analysis gives a couple of results, and one of them is a spider diagram. So in this spider diagram, you can see your score, the score of the lubrication program on each of the 40 questions. So as you can see, in the middle of the circle or the middle of the spider diagram, we see the red, yellow, and green circles, which represent the maturity of your lubrication program. Where the blue line is innovating, that will be best practice, and where the red line is firefighting, which is of course not so good. And these are the questions or the KPIs you can improve on. And as you can see, these 40 questions are divided in 4 segments. We have 10 questions on your lubrication strategy. How's your lubrication program? Which strategy did you use to build your lubrication program? One facet is on the work identification. Like I said, how do you identify problems in the field, and how do you act on that? Your work control. These are built on these questions are built on your work order process, and the last one is your work execution. We have 10 questions on how do you execute your lubrication tasks. There's some other diagrams that comes out in the report, like a deviation chart, which I do not show here, but which exists. And in this deviation chart, you can see on which of the 40 questions you score above or on benchmark, and which questions do you score below benchmark. So that's a gap analysis, and it gives you an insight on which areas do I give some attention to improve, and which areas do I already have a very good score. So I don't need to give so much attention to that. What we can do, or what we do, we rank your maturity actually. So this is the SKF maturity arrow, as we call it, and is divided in 2 segments, which is stabilizing and optimizing. And these 2 are divided in 4 others, like I said, with the colors from firefighting to innovating. So we can actually position your lubrication program on every question to how mature are you on that certain aspect. Where firefighting is, of course, the lowest maturity you can have, and world class is the highest maturity you can have. It's absolutely not necessary to have a world class on 40 aspects of a lubrication management program, because it would not add any value, and it would cost a lot of money to do that. But it's very important to have certain aspects of a lubrication management program to bring that to world class level, or at least promoting, and gain all the efforts that or gain all the advantages of best practices. If we have analyzed the current lubrication management program, and we have ranked your maturity, there's certain areas that probably need some more attention and or a deeper dive into. For that, we use a lubrication audit. Lubrication audit is an audit which is based on 270 additional questions, and these questions are grouped in 10 sections. It usually takes about 3 to 5 days site visit to interview people, to have a site walk around, and to make an inventarization of the as-is situation with a deeper dive. So we dive deeper into 10 sections, like for instance your supplier selection. Where is this based on? How did you select your suppliers? With all kinds in between, and or we also look at is how many automatic lubrication systems do you have installed. Installing automatic lubrication systems gives you a lot of advantages if it comes to contamination, avoiding making mistakes and stuff like that. So this audit is an additional investigation to be 100% sure that we have a very clear insight in the as is situation of your current lubrication management program. So if the as is situation is fully clear, then it's time to make a roadmap to improvement based on the outcome of the audit and the client needs analysis. Well, these improvement projects are determined together with a company that has been investigated, and it's based on where the biggest gaps are. It's based on low-hanging fruits, which projects will give us a quick benefit, and it's also based on how must these projects be invested. Is it capex or opex? Opex projects can most of the time be started real soon, and capex projects most of the time take some time to get the investment ready and start. For instance, lubricant training or lubrication training is a typical thing you can start immediately with, and it will give you a big advantage if the people who are lubricating your equipment are trained and they know what they're doing. While optimizing or implement a lubrication plan itself based on operational parameters can take a lot of time and will not bring you a direct advantage because of the time it takes. So your roadmap to improvement must be based on quick wins and on projects that give you a sustainable program. So if the roadmap is built, we have the preparation done. We have analyzed the as-is situation. We have a full insight in this situation and in the gaps. We have made a roadmap to improvement, and next step will be that we have to design and implement the improvements and start optimizing. Optimizing is probably one of the most difficult things within a lubrication management program, because of time, but also because of attention. It's very important that people who lubricate give you information from the field where faults are hidden, so that they have to be made visible. Your condition monitoring data is a parameter that gives you insight in faults and possibilities for continuous improvement. But you cannot improve again if you don't measure your as-is situation. So we have some performance KPIs that have to be defined and set. And one of the most important things of that is that these are measurable KPIs. A lot of time KPIs are defined that afterwards are not measurable. So that might be a problem. The second step is if you have measurable KPIs and you start measuring, you have to adjust them when and where it's needed. And after that, you always have to update your program based on these measurable KPIs. And we use the same process, the asset efficiency optimization model, to measure and eliminate faults. So what do we see in a typical customer journey? That companies that have a solid and well-functioning lubrication management program have installed a lot of automated systems. This gives you a lot of advantages. It's time effective, it's cost effective, It's much more safer than having people walking around in your factory and lubricating manually. It also gives you a limited resources need, so it gives you a lot of advantages. Companies that don't have a very mature lubrication management program, they do a lot of lubrication by hand. Of course, you cannot automate everything, so it'll always be a couple of equipments or lubrication points that have to be lubricated by hand, but it always gives you some safety issues. There's a lot of room for making mistakes, and it's an intensive resource basis. So there's a lot of premature failures because of cleanliness control before, for instance, with manual lubrication, while with automated systems give you a lot of contamination advantages. One of the SKF newest single point lubricators is the SKF connected lubrication we call TLDD. It's a single point lubricator with a battery and a motor drive with a Wi-Fi system installed and a dashboard, and it's visible on a cellular phone if you want to. We can have about 2,000 of these single point lubricators connected to one gateway, and in the dashboard on your phone or on your laptop you can see how they perform. These lubricators have about 2 kilometers range, so most of the time there's only one gateway needed, but it all depends, of course, on the number of obstacles between the gateway and the lubricator. Well, these single point lubricators, they give a lot of advantage if it comes to contamination control, having the right lubricant with the right amount on the right time. And the dashboard shows you the performance of your lubrication as well. It works more or less like this. So we have this connected lubricator. It's based on the existing system 24 single point lubricator. It has a motor drive and some LED lights on the top to give a status of its functioning. And it communicates via a LoRa communication to a gateway, which on its turn communicates with the SKF cloud and our user web interface. We call this our lubricator control panel. In this control panel, we can see certain parameters of this system, and we can see in an overview, for instance, how many of the lubricators are installed, how many of the units have an alarm or warnings. We can see on which application they are installed on, the asset tag number. We can give an asset name. We know the location of the lubricator, the signal strength. You can also see the fill, how much lubricant is still in the cartridge, and within how many weeks it'll be empty. What we also can see is how much lubricant does it consume every month. So we can monitor if an equipment is consuming too much lubricant, and this control panel can, for instance, also shut down the units. So if a factory or an equipment shuts down for a while, we can also shut down the lubrication unit and restart it, of course. Combined, for instance, with vibration monitoring, we can also adjust the settings of the lubricant from the control panel. So if we see in vibration data, for instance, that we have some lubrication problems within a bearing, we can adjust the amount of lubrication added. We can give more, or we can give less, and see what the influence is on the lubrication performance. So this is our SKF Enlight Centre, and the single point lubricator will be integrated soon. It has a separate dashboard now, but soon it will be integrated within the Enlight Centre. So as you can see on the dashboard picture, we can give you or we can make a full analysis on equipment performance, and show some statistics based on the data that we upload in the system with the SKF condition monitoring tools. So to monitor the performance of your lubrication program, we can install online systems. These systems continuously monitor equipments with vibration data, temperature. We can also add additional data like RPMs, pressures, or other data. We have single point wireless vibration and temperature sensors that communicate with this dashboard via a gateway. And we have the SKF Quick Collect app, for instance, or the SKF Pro Collect app, using the Quick Collect sensor, where we can build a complete inspection round, including lubrication, to collect all kinds of data in the field, and add to our dashboard, and make some analysis on equipment performance. So these are the tools that can be used to monitor your lubrication program, and to make your lubrication connected. If you see the Pro Collect app, it's also possible to do this in an iPad, for instance. We can build a complete inspection rounds, where, for instance, a lubrication technician would use these tools to collect data while he is lubricating or relubricating equipment in the field. And this additional data will give you a clear insight on how the program functions, and ultimately how your equipment functions. So gives you a full insight in asset health. If you need any more information on what I have shown you in these slides, you can contact Mr. Ringo van Vorst. You see a link to his email, or you can also contact your SKF regional sales manager in the UK. Names and numbers are shown in this slide. Okay, this was my last slide, and I hope everybody thought this was interesting. And if you have any questions, please do not hesitate and ask them. So, if any questions, does anybody have any questions? Okay, well, if you have any questions afterwards, please do not hesitate to contact Ringo, and we will answer you by mail. Okay, well, thank you very much for your attendance, and wish you all the best, and stay safe.
Okay, Marcel, thank you very much for your webinar. Thank you all to all the participants for today. We hope it was of any interest for you and maybe applicable for your personal situation in your company. as Marcel said, if you have any additional information requested, like brochures or additional information, you can contact me on my email address, and I will take care that it's sent to the right contact person within our organization. Or of course, you can contact your regional sales manager in UK. For your information, this session has been recorded and will be sent to you later today or tomorrow at the latest. And if you have any other questions, you know where to come. Thank you very much again, and hopefully we'll see you next time in another webinar in our program. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you.